it's Stefan, the BMW DIY guy. My project today is going to be the Alpha One speaker upgrade kit from Bimmertech, and it's going to be going into my BMW F32 435. I am super excited for this. I have the HK or Harmon Kardon system in the F32. It's okay, but it's never going to be better than okay. This is really a high quality, top of the line upgrade, and I could not be more excited to get this in my car. Bimmertech just released this. They really are pushing the limits and pushing the boundaries of what can be done for really plug and play upgrades, which is what this is. I really want to stress the advantages of kits like this. There is no cutting, there's no changing your panels or your door cards or anything else like that. You don't have to cut the plugs off of your existing system, which is a huge thing. This isn't like taking your car to the stereo shop and having them cut all your plugs off and really have to heavily modify and customize your car just to get the speakers in. So these are plug and play. They go directly into the mounts and all of the other setup as your existing speaker system. The wires plug in straight in. You don't have to cut plugs off or do anything crazy like that. So this is a really great upgrade. I'm super excited to get it in the car. I want to thank Bimmertech for this project, and let's get out to the garage and get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the door card, which is really not hard. So you need to take this trim piece off here, and we've got a plastic trim tool. We'll take this plastic trim piece off. There are two T20 bolts here. There's one here and one here that will come out, and then your door is essentially loose with the exception of all of these clips that go all the way around. We're going to use our plastic trim tool again. We're going to pry underneath and gently pull these clips away. So these big kind of plastic post clips that stick into the door frame, don't be afraid of when you take this off. It can be kind of loud. Just be gentle with it. There's going to be big popping sounds when you pull it off. It's really not that hard. You just want to make sure that you're careful with doing it. Also, I know that I also have some spare of these little clips because sometimes when you're putting them back in, if you don't put them back in straight, or if someone else has had your door card off and didn't put it back on straight, they may have mashed those clips and they break. So one of the very first things you want to do, like I said, is you want to take your door trim off. Again, be very careful. This door trim can be plastic, it can be wood. Mine's carbon fiber. So I'm going to take my plastic trim tool and put it right here into the middle to get a little bit of gap so it starts to peel up and away. It can be really in here really firmly, as you can see, and just slowly work it to get it to come away. There we go. So now I'm going to pull it away gently, and there's a metal clip here on the bottom, and it's best to rock this out and pull it out, and as you can see it pulls out like that. So set this aside safely so it doesn't get scraped up. This is a very visible piece in your car, so make sure that it's someplace safe. So then you'll have the T20 here on top and bottom. I'm going to take those out, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do next. I'm going to move the camera up a little bit. I just wanted you to be able to see the whole door before we start. Okay, so both of the bolts are out. This also gives me a great opportunity as well to fix a problem in this upper bolt here. Someone had this door card off before, and there's a little clip that screw goes into up on the top, and it was broken when I took my door card off previously. So this gives me an opportunity to actually fix a problem in my car. So, because this handle is a little bit loose when this bolt is a little bit loose. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, take your plastic trim tool. I like using the wide one, and you're just going to gently get underneath the door card here. I usually do up here on this leading edge, so if for whatever reason you slip or ding it up a little bit, you're not going to see it. If you take this back edge, every time you open your door, you could potentially see it. Now, there's no reason to do that as long as you're careful. So just work it underneath, give it a little bit of gap. You should be able to get your plastic tool up underneath this. Now this is really firm. There it is. So now, once you can get your fingers in, I just use my fingers. Gently pull away. And you can hear the popping of those, they're like plastic rivets basically, that all go into place. There we go, all the way up to the top. So now, what you have is, you've got a cable that's attached to the back of your door pull, some cabling for your lighting, some cabling across the bottom. So when you pull this out, you can't just pull your door card away sharply because of all of the cables. It's pressed on across the top. It doesn't lift up and out like many. It doesn't hook. It's pressed in. So you got to watch your door pin, your door lock pin. Just pull it away. You can hear all of that popping away. Lift it up and off the door pin. So now in this case, you can reach in. A little hard to see right now, I know. But you can reach in and you can unplug. I've got the lighting that goes down my lighting track, so you just pull that plug out.
You pull your door handle pull, you lift it up and out, and it comes out, you can see right there. And I'm just going to walk the rest of this cabling out as I go, as we go through the rest of this. Now, what you can do in this case is that once you have enough of the cabling loose, you can always just take and tip the door card and set it down on the ground. Now, what I've done is I've also laid some towels down. Last thing I want to do is scrape my door card. So now I still have the cable for the window switch plugged in. I still have, yeah, that's the only one still plugged in. And my lighting here for the bottom. You can see the cable coming across. So you don't have to take those out unless you really want to. In this case, now you can get to the speaker. I'm going to move the camera to show you the speaker now, and I'm going to show you how to get to this upper piece as well. You'll also see, just for the heck of it, I'll show you and point out the broken little locking area I've got for the upper screw. So let me move the camera and I'll show you what we're looking at. So here we are. So we're looking at your mid here, and this is the cable that's going to the lower light on the door card. So just ignore this hanging in the way. You've got 3 T20 bolts here, here, and here. You've got 2 plugs that go here. Here's your feed that comes up out of the door into the mid, and then the feed that goes up into your tweeter up here. So we can go ahead and just work those plugs out and unplug those like that. So both of those are unplugged. Super simply, we take out our 3 T20s that we're going to reuse right here. So set them aside safely. 1, 2, and 3. And then your mid will be out. Like I said, I'm also going to use this opportunity to repair something that's broken, which is kind of nice. It's been kind of bugging me. So then your mid just pulls right out. And you can see the difference. And I'll do a comparison of the speakers here in a second. But these are okay speakers. They're not great. They're not bad. But what we're putting in is really, really good. So you can see the mid's out now, which is great. Now we've got our tweeter right here up on top, which I'm going to adjust a little bit so you can see just a little bit better. There we go. This should just lift up and out. So I'm going to take that off next. Make sure that I've got a little bit of tight cabling right here. So I'm actually going to move this plug and take this plug out with my trim tool. So let me take that out, and then I'm going to show you how to take the tweeter out next. Super simple. Okay, so in setting up to show you how to take the tweeter off, it came off. So super simple. So what you have is, and actually I can show you when you look at the back, there's a post here and a little slide-in post here. So what you're going to do is you want to lift, because when it goes back in, it's going to go in like that, right? So what you want to do is lift up a little bit, pry on this upper corner to get the upper corner away, and then slide it out and off that lower section. Don't just pull the whole thing straight out, because you'll break this bottom clip, because the bottom clip goes in and down. So you want to press up a little bit, pry the top corner, and then continue to lift up and away to get it to come away. Okay, so now we've got this off, and you can see it's got this foam liner on the inside. All you have to do is just slowly back this foam liner off and pull the cabling out, which we've got here. It's wrapped around really, really well. Now the other thing you can see in the foam liner here, you can see where you've got probably what's a filter or something similar in the line right there. So when you take that out, that's exactly where the filter for the new tweeter right here is going to go. So as you can see, we've got the new tweeter here, which looks absolutely fantastic. So we're going to fit that into place. You've got the existing tweeter. Now what you can do is it's held in by a series of little small clips. You can pry those clips back with your fingertips a little bit. You can also use a pick tool to get it out. Super simple. So just use a pick tool, back this out, snap the new tweeter in, and you're going to fit it into this foam piece exactly how the previous one went as well. So I'll show you once it's all put back together. So let me get the new tweeter in, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I've got the new tweeter in. The old one came out really simply. All I did was just pry on a couple of these little flanges very gently with my fingers and lift with my other hand, and the speaker just popped right out. We've snapped the new one in, just push it straight into place, and then you just route the cabling back through the foam that was here before. And same track as it was before, and then just fit the foam right back into place. So as you can see, it all just comes right back in. We've got the filter on this line, which is probably what it is, sitting in the exact same spot, and everything's all back in nice and neat with the cable routed out the bottom. And this is the cable that's going to connect to the adapter that's coming off the mid. So to put this back on, all we have to do is take it, and like I said, is take this middle post, fit the middle post in first, kind of put it in and push it down, and then snap the top one right back into place, just like that. And it's all pretty much good to go at that point. Okay, so we've got our cable coming down from the tweeter. Now, all of your speakers will have this little Y adapter, and they're marked really nicely. So we've got mid out, which in this case is the one that's got the foam on it. We've got the smaller one, which says TW, or tweeter out. So our tweeter is going to plug into this side of that Y. Okay, we can put our mid back in. And let's grab our mid and compare the two here really quickly. So as you can see, here's the factory one. Harmon Kardon speakers, now, you know, 3-4 years old, going on 4. Not bad, not great. Here is the new Alpha One. Much, much better. Very cool, really cool. So you can see the plug on the back of this. So what you'll do is you'll take the plug off of your Y right here, plug it into the back of your mid. Nice and simple. That should go right in, which it did. Good, just like that. And then what we'll do is we'll take our mid and we'll fit our mid right back into place right here. And the holes really only go in one orientation. So as you turn the speaker around, you'll see there's really kind of only one orientation. As you turn and you turn, you'll find, okay, there it is. That's the orientation, how they line up with the holes in the door. Okay, so now the other thing you're going to want to do is make sure that all your cabling is laid out really nicely. Obviously, I've got one of the door panel cables here in the way. I just didn't see a point in unplugging it. So I'm going to plug this in back into the feed from the head unit right here. So everything will be plugged in. I'm going to make sure that my cables are in and secure, and I'm going to put the three Torx bolts in to secure this, and then I'll show you what's next. Okay, so everything's plugged in, but I wanted to show you one additional little thing that I did. So all of my cables are plugged in, my tweeter's in, my mid is in and secure. Now there's a notch in the side of the frame right here in the mid where you can run the cable out. Now you can absolutely run your cabling out of that notch right there when it's plugged into this Y adapter here, and you're good to go there. Now you may or may not have what I've got right here. I've got a little grommet, a little rubber grommet right here that I took out, and I've run the cabling from the back up through the grommet and put the grommet back into place. So I didn't run it out through the notch right here. So I have this advantage. I've seen some of the door panels that don't have this little grommet right here. If you don't have it, go ahead and run it through the notch, which is how they recommend that you run the cabling out. In this case, I'm going to run it out of this grommet just because I've got a little bit of extra room there, and it fits out through that grommet perfectly. So I just ran the cabling through the hole, pulled the grommet out, ran the cabling through the hole, plugged it into the speaker, screwed the speaker into place, and then pushed the grommet back into place, and it's got that cable nice and secure. Now I'm going to take a little bit of 3M double-sided adhesive on the back of my Y adapter box right here, and I'm going to secure it to the door. You can also use paper tape or something similar to make sure that everything is secured down. I hate rattles. They drive me crazy. If I've got a rattle in my car, I do everything in my power to track it down. So the last thing you want to do is create some. So also you've got the hole here, which is one of those nylon posts that's in your door card, goes to this hole right here. So make sure that your cabling is free of your post hole right here. So I'm going to secure all this down, and then this door is done, and you're going to repeat the process on your other door. So as I go through this, I'm only going to go down one side. I'm going to show the center. I'm going to show, this is passenger side door. I'm going to show the passenger side rear panel in the back seat, because this is a coupe. So that's going to be a little bit different because it doesn't have a door. So I'm going to show you how to pull that side panel off, and then the rear deck. So walking down all one side of the car. The only thing I'm not going to show is the other door, because it's just going to be a duplicate of this. So, but the passenger side of this door is done. You can put your door card back on. It's just going to be a reverse of the same process that you went through. You will just back out. You snap on the top section, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second, but it's just a reversal of what you did before. So I'm going to secure my module down, then I'm going to put the door card back on. Okay, so my cabling is all secure. I've got my 3M tape on the little Y adapter. I'm going to pick this up really carefully because, again, it's partially attached still to the door. Again, use towels to keep it from getting scratched up. So then you want to plug everything back in. Your door lock, you can see the end here. Hold the handle with one hand on the inside and take this white piece, put it in and rock it down into place. It'll go in and snap down, and you can hear it snap down. And then you can feel your door handle on the inside that it works properly and feels under the correct tension, so you know that it's correct. So the only thing that I really got to plug back in here is my door track lighting, and then line the door back up to plug it in. So I'm going to take my door track lighting, the little LED emitter, snap that back into place. Be careful with that, it's really fragile. So when you take the door, walk it up and over the door pin. Just sit here and play Tetris to get this to fit in. Don't bend that. It can be a big deal. Make sure it doesn't get bent. Okay, so then line it back up straight where it should be against the door here, and gently bang it back into place. Just gently. You can hear all the clips go back in. And then you've got all the clips around the outer edges. What you can also do is if you actually lay on your back and look up into the door, you can make sure that all of these little nylon posts are all in the right alignment. There's a little bit of wiggle to them, and if they're off a little bit, you'll mash them flat and smash them when you try to put them in. And then your door might be a little bit loose and might vibrate a little bit. So I'm going to suggest, which I'm going to do next, is I'm going to lay on my back and look up into the door to make sure all my little nylon posts are lined up, and then just bang gently with the palm of your hand, bang your door card back in place. Then you've got your two T20s, top and bottom, to screw in. And then let's talk about your door trim here for a second. Now, when we look at your door trim, in this case, I've got several of the metal clips that came off. There's little metal clips on the door side of this. They very frequently will come off onto the trim itself. Now the trim, you want, again, stick back under this metal tab on the bottom, rock it over that piece, put it up into place, and then gently press it back into place. If you have to, you can pull these metal clips off. I've got one that came off on this piece. It goes here into the middle. You can take it off, put it back in the correct location on the door pull itself. So when you press this back in, it'll go back in accurately, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get underneath, check all my nylon pins, make sure that they're all in the right place, and then bang my door card back into place using the palm of my hand. Then put those two T20s on and my trim back on. The next thing after that we're going to go to is we're going to look at the center channel, because what we're going to want to do is change the speakers in the center channel. We're going to do those next. Okay, so the center channel is almost harder to show than it is to do, because you look at it from such an oblique angle. You can see the back of it. This is behind your display right here. You've got this cover, so it's kind of hard to show. I've got it at a hard angle coming in through the passenger side door right now. I'll also try to show down through the windshield once I get the cover off. But all you're going to do is take your plastic trim tool and get underneath this cover and lift, and this whole cover will lift up and off. So just be really gentle when you do it. Make sure that you don't ding up your dash or anything else like that. And then you'll have the mid and the tweeter that's here in your center channel. So let me get the cover off. I'm going to change my camera angle to try to show you down through the windshield the best I can so you can see. Okay, so forgive me for being a little bit muffled as I work in and out of the car here. I've got my plastic trim tool under the edge and slowly, gently pry this up. There's a series of clips on this, so it's held down very firmly, but if you come at it from this corner, you can get it up. Now, you can see the speakers here. What you're going to have to do is use a very small screwdriver or thumb driver to get those screws out. So as you can see, they're all held in, so I'm going to walk and get all these screws out. The other thing you want to be really careful with is, as you take these out, don't drop them, because that would really suck. Now, there's a little bit of a plastic bowl that these speakers are sitting in, but you don't want to go fishing around for them. So take these out, and then I'll show you how to put the mid and tweeter, the new mid and tweeter back in. But you'll need to take these out first. Now, thumb drivers is one of those, they're very frequently like a round disc. You put your driver bit into it, and then you can use it to get a grip on it to take these out. And that's what I'm going to use in this case to take these screws out. So let me get those out and I'll show you putting the new ones in. Okay, so I've got all 5 out. So I put my hand in here. So the ones that are closest to your display, assuming that you have it, are the easiest to get out. The 2 at the very peak, closest to the inside of the windshield right here, are really a narrow space. And you're definitely going to need a thumb driver, or I've seen little wrench drivers that are really, really flat, and you can fit your T20 bit into the little wrench handle to get into this narrow space. I found my thumb driver definitely did it. And so now both speakers are out, and you can just pull them both up and out and unplug them. So this is out, the mid is out, and so I'm going to pull these out, get them unplugged, and then I'll show you how the new ones plug in. Okay, so I've rearranged the camera and the lighting a little bit, so hopefully you can see a little bit better. So you can see here in the main bowl for the mid, there's a notch right here. So what you're going to do is you have that same Y branching cable. So this is going to plug into one side of that branch, and then we'll plug into the Y. The Y will then plug into your mid and plug into your tweeter, and then the cable for the mid will come up right through this notch. Your tweeter will sit here, and the cable can go down into this void space right here. So it's all a matter of just getting this all fit back in. So this is going to plug into the Y. You can set your mid in, route the cabling up through the notch, get your tweeter set, and then put all of your 5 screws back in. Again, just line them up with the holes. It really only has one orientation to go with the holes. With the tweeter, it has a shaped cone on it. So I'm going to shape the cone so it's shaped to go towards the driver's side, which is this side, because I'm currently sitting on the passenger side. So my shape and my cone is going to be pointed towards the driver because I'm in the car most of the time. So I'm going to get all my cabling plugged in, and then I'll show you what it looks like once this is all fit back in. But like I said, make sure to run the cabling through this notch in the frame that's right there. So that way you don't pinch any of your cabling. Okay, as you can see, the mid and new tweeter is in. I've got the shaped tweeter with the lip to project it off the windshield towards me. So I've got this kind of lip on the driver's side as I installed it. All 5 bolts are in, and again, the top ones are a bit of a pain to reach to. I basically ended up using my thumb driver. It was actually too big, so what I ended up using was a 20mm, or excuse me, T20 socket. So for my socket wrench, but then put an adapter in it to make it a little bit bigger to grip. So I've got a T20 socket with a little bit bigger adapter socket on top, and then I could just put it into the bolt and turn it. And it worked better than my thumb drive because it was too big to fit in the space. So they're all in. Like I said, the cabling, the Y adapter is underneath the mid. The cabling for the tweeter comes up through this notch that I mentioned, comes up and is tucked, all the extras tucked back behind, but they're all secure in place. The cover will just simply lay back into place and snap down. And then this will be done. So let's show the passenger side rear quarter panel next. We'll show you how to take that off because, again, it's different than a door. I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll get to those speakers. Okay, so next steps, we're going to need to take out the seat base, which is really, really simple here in the back. You have to do it for both sides because obviously we're going to pull the rear panels on both sides. This is easier than easier than it looks. I'll simply get in here, get your fingers underneath, and pull up. This is the way it's been for BMWs for many, many years. Fit it up and over the seat belts. It's also a great opportunity to clean your seats if you want. Find out anything that's fallen down between your seats. So just feed it out. There's nothing else holding it down other than those 3 clips. So now, with that safely aside, you can see what you've got here underneath. So what we're going to need to do is pull the side panels next. I'm going to change the camera position a little bit to show you that. And then we're going to pull the side panels out that are on pretty easily, and because your speakers are actually secure in the side panels in this case, not like at your door where it's attached to the door. So let me rearrange the camera. Okay, so I'm going to try to stay out of the camera as much as I can so you can see what I'm doing, but all pretty straightforward. This side panel is held on by a series of clips all the way around. We've got to take the side bolster off. The side bolster just comes straight out. You just reach in and pull it straight out. It'll come out and away. Now, what you may lose is there's a little plastic clip that fits over this. I'm going to fish it out here. If I can get it fished out for you. There's a plastic clip that comes off that we're going to have to put back on this little metal post. I'll get it out in a second when I show it to you, but we'll fit this back on. So you can take that, set it aside. So now your side panel piece is just held on by a series of clips. So it's a matter of just getting your fingers in and pulling out really gently and then across the top. Now there also are going to be a couple of little pressure clips that I'm going to show the best I can back in here in this back corner. And it's a little off camera right now, but I'll show you those as well once we loosen this panel. Now you loosen this panel, and you can have a plastic trim tool if you need it handy. Get your fingers underneath and just start to pull up and away. And it is really tight. You can hear by that. Obviously this panel's never been off. There we go. So as you can see, it's starting to come off. So now this panel is almost completely loose, with the exception of a couple clips up here in the corner. So let me rearrange a little bit, show you where those clips are. They are plastic rivets that you just pull out the center pin. I'll show you those. Okay, so really quickly, this is the little plastic clip that was left behind when I pulled that side bolster. So you can see there's got a little tab on it. I pressed on the tab and then the clip came out. And what you do is you take the side bolster and you just clip it right back into place. There's really only one way for it to go. And you see it snaps into place like that. So make sure to not lose that as you do both sides. Okay, so this is going to be a combination of taking this back section up and down to get to the little pressure pins on either side. The panel is pretty much loose right now, just like that. Okay, well, in this case, maybe somebody's taken my little clips off. So let me rearrange here a little bit. So now my panel's actually loose and came loose. There should have been one more pin to come out. So what you're going to want to do, see if I can find it. Yeah, it may be that in my case, the pin had already come out. Okay, well, I'll find that another time. Okay, so the panel's off. So the only thing that's holding it in place now are all of the different cabling. So what you need to do is reach in here and unplug the power for your little, if you have the light that goes here along the trim, unplug that, which should come out nice and neatly. So we'll unplug that. There's also a large box down here at the bottom that's all plugged into the wiring harness in the car. You hook on the tab and it'll come out. And then there's one more speaker wire that plugs into your speakers right here into the mid, because the tweeter comes off the mid as well. So all you have to do is pull the feed for the mid and it'll be fine. So a little hard to see right now, because then you're going to take your panel and set it on your workbench and replace the speakers in the panel. So I'll show you that next. Okay, so I've got the panel off. I've got it sitting on my face of my workbench, so forgive the mess a little bit. Here's one of these little nylon clips that I was telling you about earlier. They're used to secure this panel as well. I actually have one in the upper corner here off frame right at the moment that's actually broken, so I'm going to replace that. I'll also put a link in the comments section for the video of where to order more of these, because candidly, if you're pulling your panels more often than about once, you're going to want to have a few of these on hand as extra, and I have some extra around. So we've got 3 T20s, 1, 2, 3, all holding the mid into place. So we'll pull those. It looks like we've got the same sort of just little pressure clips holding the tweeter in, and you can see there's actually a nice little clip here for this resistor or whatever this happens to be. So we'll put the same thing there. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my 3M tape again, and I'm going to secure down any components that I feel like would rattle, because last thing we want to do is do all this work and have rattles, which is also candidly the same reason why if you do have broken panel clips, I'm the second owner of my car, but there definitely were some changes on my car for the speakers, which I'll talk about a little bit later when we get to the underseat subs. So if you have, when you pull this off, you have broken clips or things like these guys, you have these broken clips. Now's the time to replace them, because this is a great opportunity with these panels off that you can pull them off and replace them and cut down on any potential rattles. Now the other thing you want to be careful with is pulling these plugs. The last thing you want to do is break one of these plugs. I have noticed in the past with all the other work that I've done is that sometimes, for whatever reason, these plugs, which have this little pressure clip here that make them come loose, are really stiff, and so you find yourself having to put a inordinate amount of force on these plugs to get them out. Be super careful, because again, you shatter this plug and you're in trouble. Now, it'd be possible to buy another one of these plugs and restrip the wires and put a new plug on, but what a pain. They have to order that, right? So when you take it off, be really, really careful. So obviously the mid is out. You can feed this resistor out, and then I'm going to use my pick tool. Now the other thing I noticed in this case, now that I look really closely, my tweeter has actually been glued down. There's 3 little glue spots here, here, and here. So I'm going to be really careful in taking those out. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take my shop knife and just really carefully cut those glue bonds to get this free and then pick the tweeter out, which I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so I got the tweeter out. It took a little bit of doing. So I've got a 90-degree pick, which was really handy. There were 3 big globs of glue, here, here, and here, and right over 3 of the locking tabs that help hold this down. So I used my pick tool and slowly just picked away at the glue and got the glue free. I don't know why it was glued. I've pulled the tweeters out of back panels of two-door coupe BMWs before. I've never seen them glued in, so that was new to me. But it was definitely glued in. So I picked that glue away, and then I was able to get my pick tool under the edge. Now there are locking tabs all the way around. Once I was able to get under an edge, it popped up and came away. Now be really careful. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 locking tabs all the way around. I really want to stress, be careful with those, because if you break them, you could be in trouble, right? And then your new one will just lock right back into the same place. And I'm going to put it back in the same orientation as the previous one, and it will just lock down under those tabs and should be just fine and good to go. Then we'll take our mid, and again, this is the 45 mid, and it will just go straight into place. We've got our connector there. We've got our 3-wire adapter where we'll plug our tweeter in here, our mid in here, and this into the line that's coming up out of the wiring harness right here. So I'm going to get this all plugged in and screwed in together. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done, and then we'll get this panel reinstalled. Okay, so a couple of things I want to point out here before we wrap up. So first of all, like I said, I've got a broken, one of these little pressure clips that's broken, like this on this corner. I'm going to replace that. Now the other thing you notice here at the top, you notice that I've got 2 of those metal clips. So instead of the panel coming off the clips came off the car. So both of these clips, I'm going to take and install back in the correct orientation before I put this panel on, right? Because the clips have to be in the right place. So check to make sure that you don't have clips that came off like mine did. So I'll put those back on the car before I try to put this panel in place, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these clips across the top. The other thing is, always keep in mind when putting this in, you've got metal screws going into plastic. So you want to be firm when you put them in so nothing rattles and nothing moves, but don't just turn them until it breaks, because again, you strip one of these and you're in trouble. What you do from there is really kind of anything you can do to try to secure it. So just tighten until snug. Don't tighten them too far down and strip the metal out of the plastic. That'd be a problem. Okay, so we've got our adapter in, as you can see, so that's all good to go. Again, I'm going to take some of my little 3M double-sided adhesive. I'm going to attach this down and get this all down in a nice, neat place so it doesn't rattle and move around at all, and that'll be nice and neat and clean. So I'm going to get that done, and then we're going to get the panel reinstalled. So before I do that though, like I said, I'm going to take my metal clips and I'm going to go put those back in the side of the car, and I'm going to replace my little nylon clip here, like this guy right here. I'm going to replace this on this corner so it won't rattle and move around either. So I'm going to get all that done, and I'm going to get this stuck down, then we'll get this panel reinstalled. Okay, so let's get the panel reinstalled. What I've noted is some differences in how these panels are installed, specifically at this tail end. So I've seen some that actually have little, they're called push rivets to help hold this end in. I don't believe that's the case. All I've got is on the plastic surround for the seatbelt holder, there's a little plastic tab that sticks out that you'll want to get into that matching hole there so it'll be locked in correctly. So with that said, you can also see I've put the metal clips that came off back in place. You can tell where they go because there's little indentations and holes in the sheet metal right here where these lock into. So I've got all those replaced back into the right places. So first thing we want to do is get this leaned into place and get all of our cabling plugged back in. That's going to be a little hard to see, but I'll get all of my cabling plugged in, including the white little plugs that go into the panel to help hold the cables in place and keep them from rattling around. So I'm going to lean in here. We're going to get this locked into place. My nylon posts, I replaced that one nylon post. I also want to mention that I've seen different colors. So on this panel, most of them are gray, but all the ones down this back edge are blue. I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know what the difference is, right? I honestly don't know what the difference is. When I've bought them before, I've got them in tan, I've got them in white, I've got them in blue. I don't know what the differences are. I don't know if there is a difference maybe in how they work. They all seem the same to me. So I've replaced that one post that was chewed up. So I'm going to lean in here, and we will get this all plugged back in. You've got your speaker plug that will go into your wiring harness for the new speakers. You've got this lower plug that helps control your robo seatbelt arm if you have that, if you have the coupe and you have it. And then there is the one electrical run that comes up for your LED lighting that goes underneath the armrest. So I'll get all of those set in and set into place, as you can see. And then I will show you when it's done. Okay, so I've got it back on. It's just as easy to put on as it was to take off. You've got this seatbelt cover right here. So I brought the end in, kind of hooked it around so that post would be into the side panel. Now, because the side panel is a little more flexible than the door cards, these upper ones don't want to snap in quite as easily as the doors do. So I just kind of carefully pressed to make sure that they were lined up, and you can hear when they go pop, and they pop into place. Once those were popped into place, I worked along the bottom edge and got all those nylon posts in, and just kind of using the heel of my hand to bang it into place. Got it all nice and in place, and then same thing across this front edge and down the side. The one thing to remember on the door seal side, you've got this big heavy door seal, this kind of rubbery felt material. Make sure that it is that the panel goes behind that seal, and the seal isn't trapped back behind it, that the seal goes on top of it, right? So run your finger down, or run your plastic trim tool down that edge to make sure that it's out and all in place. So it's all in place now, which you should be good to go. Now obviously I've still got to do the other side, which I'm going to do separately, but what I want to show next is the speaker on the back panel, and then everything from the center channel down the passenger side, passenger rear, and the rear channel will be done, and then everything else is just a duplicate of that. So I'll show that back panel next. But as you go through all these things, I would do the other side. I'd do the driver's side next, because you've got the seat out, you've got all this stuff out. It's just a matter of kind of doing it in order, but I want to show it all as we go through. So I'm going to do the back shelf next. Okay, so we got to pull the cover first. I'm going to do my best to show this. This is where space is a little compromised. What I've done is, again, since I have the coupe and the back seats will lay down, the headrests will be right in the way, and they're not removable. So I've laid the seats down with my legs stuck into the trunk, and I'm sure you can find a couple of different ways to make this work. But we're going to remove the cover, and we're going to have the same mid and tweeter underneath this cover. So I'm going to use my plastic trim tool. I'll pry this cover up, and then I will do my best to show. Again, we're going to have to look down through the glass to see it, which can make a little bit of a challenging camera angle. It's harder to show on camera than it is to actually see. So I'm going to pull that cover, and then I'll show you the mid and tweeter underneath. Okay, so as we're looking down through the back glass, hopefully you can see the cone of the mid right there being white, which will help you see. I've got tinted windows, so it's a little bit harder to see, but you've got the same 5 screws. They're going to be T20s, the 3 holding down the mid, the 2 holding down the tweeter. So you're going to do the exact same thing you did to the front. And you've got more room to operate now from underneath, which is nice because this glass is higher than the windshield is on the center channel. So you're going to pull all of those, pull them out. There'll be a notch in the frame of the mid to run all those cables out. So you're going to repeat basically the same process you did for the center channel, but with a little more space. So I'm going to pull all those out, put the new ones in, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Hopefully you can see fairly clearly, even though it's kind of dark. I'm doing my best to try to light the speakers and see what it looks like, especially looking through the back glass. So I'm going to get those swapped out and the new ones swapped in. Okay, hopefully you're able to see that the new speakers are in. It's easier than the center channel, like I mentioned, because you have more room to work with. This is also an opportunity I'm going to take to clean all the inside of my back glass, because since I do that so very seldom. Granted, I got finger marks all over it, so I'm going to do it anyway, but you needed it regardless. So they're all in. Both of these speakers sit in a tray, so there's lots of padded space underneath it, so all the cables are really easy. You've got that same cable Y that comes up where the original run comes up, and then it splits out to the tweeter and to the mid. They're secured down, screwed down securely, so they're all nice in space. Now, if you're following this in the same order I am, obviously we've done the passenger side door, passenger side rear, passenger side rear deck. Take this opportunity, I'm also going to work my way around. I'm going to do the driver's side rear deck since I've got all this open now. So I'm going to turn and get that done. I'm going to do the driver's side rear and then driver's side door. And then we're going to come back. And next thing I'm going to show you is the underseat subs. So that's going to be a big step. It's not hard. There's just a couple of cautions and I'll share those when I get there and you'll see what we're looking at. But all in all, this looks just great. Okay, a couple of things before I move on. I haven't put the back seat back in yet. Both side panels are done and back and locked and into place, but I wanted to share a couple of things here before I move on. So these side bolsters on the back seat, there's a loop on the back about right here, that big metal loop. That metal loop sticks down into a plate. So you kind of put this lower section on first, get that plate hooked, and then push it and tip it back into place till that lock in that upper section snaps in. The one with the little plastic plate that we had to take off and put back on that side bolster, if you remember correctly. So both sides are in nice and neat and clean. Seatbelts over the top. Same thing for the side panel. Side panels in with the seatbelt back in the right position. So I'm going to take this opportunity to clean the back glass and vacuum underneath the seat before I put the seat base back on. Putting the seat base back on is just as simple as you took it out, where you pull from the front and then lift it out. Except in this case, you tip the back in, you tip the back into place, and you're going to have to fit both of your seatbelt receptacles up through the seat. So make sure to do that. Don't forget that. Fit them up through the holes in the seat, and then just simply snap it down into place, using the palm of your hand to just secure it back to those metal hooks that you can see right there. As my camera goes out of focus, sorry about that. So all pretty straightforward. The back is done. The back out of the glass is done. Both side panels are done. Just for me, I'm going to do the driver's side now, and then I'm going to move on to the underseat subs, which is not hard. I'm going to show you how to do that next. I will have one caution, but I will show you when I get there. Okay, so it's time for the underseat subs. So you are going to need a T50 Torx bit. So I've got a T50 on my ratchet, and these are big, long bolts that go in real deep, and they're in pretty strong. So what I've done is I've run the seat all the way forward to get to the rear ones, and then I'm going to run it back to get the fronts. Then I should be able to simply tip the seat back into the back seat. Now, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to say it again in a few minutes. Do not unplug your seat. There's a big cable that comes up into a bundle underneath your seat. Do not unplug it under any circumstances. That can and will give you an airbag error that is really hard to get rid of. So, and there's no reason to unplug your seats. All you have to do is pull these 4 bolts, the 2 in front, 2 in back. And I said they're T50s, and then tip the seat back to expose the cover for the underseat subs. So I'm going to pull those 4 bolts and tip the seat back. The other thing is these bolts tend to be a little greasy, so don't put them down on your carpet or put them down on your seat and make a stain. All right? So I'm going to pull those out, then I'll show you the underseat sub next. Okay, so you can see the seat's tipped back now. Just rocked it back gently, and it's resting on the back seat, and you can see the cover. So there are 4 T20 bolts to take out, so I'm going to take those out, and then we'll see what we have underneath, and I'll show you what I mean when we get there. Okay, so the bolts are out, and let's make this discovery together. So I am the second owner of my car, and the first owner really didn't do much, with the exception of they changed the underseat subs, and on the driver's side I have an extra Alpine dial that's been attached to the bottom of the dash for the subs, including a monstrous amp in the trunk. So they didn't change any of the other factory speakers. They didn't do anything else. All they did was change the underseat subs, which on the dial goes from 1 to 10, that I normally run at about a 0.5, because anything above about 2 sounds like you've put your head into a bass speaker and are proceeding to beat yourself to death with a pillow. It's way overkill, and it's really bad. So the one thing that the unknown for me, which hopefully won't be for you, is what's under these covers. So with much less to do, let's find out. All right, covers off. Okay, so I'm looking at what appears to be a Rockford Fosgate sub. 150 watt, 300 watt peak, 4 ohm sub. I want the Alpha Ones. So the key is going to be, and forgive me while I look here, the key is going to be is whether it still has the factory plug, which it appears it does. This is on the passenger side. So I'm going to walk through the rest of the installation, and we're going to pretend that these are the factory underseat subs, so ignore a little bit or forgive a little bit of differences. So let's walk through taking these out next. Okay, so a little difficult to see from this angle, but your sub will sit in a big plastic tray right here. So there's 4 T20s that go around the outside. Your sub will look a little bit different than this because obviously this is an aftermarket, but I think I've gotten really lucky that they've kept the factory plugs. That was kind of a deal breaker for me. I had no way of knowing if they'd cut the factory plugs off or not, and they haven't. So I've gotten really, really lucky. So now in your case, you might have something a little bit different, and I don't mean the speaker. So you've got the 4 T20s around the outside, take those out, and then it should come out. Now in some cases, BMW glued the speaker down, and what you have to do is peel the carpet back further, and you can get to the bolts. There are big 10mm bolts that hold down this tray that it sits in. So if your speaker, if you pull those 4 T20s and your speaker doesn't come out, you're probably going to have to pull this entire tray out. So pull the T10 or 10mm bolts and pull this entire tray out with the speaker in it. Then what you can do is, there's a couple of different approaches. You can use a heat gun around the outsides to warm the glue back up again. Sometimes that just makes it gummy. Some folks will even freeze it. So if you put your speaker in the tray in the freezer, that'll make the glue brittle and it'll snap out. But you just got to get that speaker out. So the glue is not all that common, so hopefully that won't be the case for you. So now this is out, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the new Alpha One sub and I'm going to put this into place. It'll drop directly into the tray, plug straight in, and I put the 4 T20s back in, and it will be good to go, and I can put the seat back down in place. Okay, so I've got the 4 T20s holding the sub down. I've got the 4 T20s to hold the cover down. I also use this opportunity to make sure to clean out any crumbs or anything else I had underneath my seat. It was a good opportunity to do so. You never know what you might find. In my E46 M3 that I had, when I took the passenger seat out one day, I found about 250 in quarters really embedded underneath the seat. So all I need to do now is tip the seat back down into place, put in those T50 bolts, front and rear. Make sure to put them in firmly. They hold your seat down and you, so make sure that they're put in properly. And at this point, as far as process, you've seen pretty much seen it all, and all the speakers are changed. So in my case, I'm still going to do the driver's side. I got to go get that done, and then I will power this up and I'll share with you the first power up and music through the new speakers.
Okay, all done, obviously. So I want to share a couple of last things on wrap up here. So first of all, I checked every single one of my speakers. So I went around, literally stuck my ear to every one of the speakers throughout the entire car, and I found 2 mids that were not playing at the time. Now, the reason why, and this is the tip I want to share, the plug that goes into the mid goes in a lot deeper than what I think you realize when you first do it. Make sure you push those plugs in all the way. I had 2. I had one on the passenger side door and one on the rear back panel that wasn't playing. So all I did was just pull that back off, check those plugs, bang, fixed it straight away. So make sure to take care of that. In addition, I want to stress to make sure that you do not unplug your seats. So when you rock your seats back, do not unplug them. That's super important to avoid airbag warnings. And then also make sure to secure your seats back down very, very firmly when you put those big T50 bolts back in. So all in all, now, and then lastly, I am sure that the audio on my camera that it recorded while sitting in the car does not do those speakers justice. And that's the really hardest thing to do, because unless you have specialized gear, there's not a good way to show the difference other than just listen to it. Now there's a million opinions on audiophiles on how to set your systems up and what speakers are good or not, but in many ways you know good sound when you hear it. and the difference is tremendous. I went through a number of different music genres, put in some great rock, some AC/DC, some Hailstorm. I put in soundtracks like Lord of the Rings, which has really high vocals and really crystal clear kind of operatic vocals, really sharp. And then the last thing you're going to want to do is get into your equalizer settings for your head unit from your car, and make sure that those are set properly. Now, I'm going to continue to experiment with that. I'm going to have a follow-up as well showing what I feel is the best settings, but even then it's going to be just a matter of opinion, because everybody wants a little bit different out of their stereo system. You want a little more treble, a little less bass, however you set that up. But it can make a tremendous difference when you go through your equalizer settings, because there are a fair number of them. And I went through some initial setup last night, tweaked it a little bit, and it really even brought more vibrancy and color and depth out of the sound as I started to work with those. So I'm going to give it a few days. I'm going to continue to research. I'm going to continue to listen, and I'll tweak those settings. But don't forget that part. Don't just take your existing HK speakers out or existing stock speakers out, put these in and just walk away, because you're only using about half of their potential. So, all right. Thank you again to Bimmertech. As you can see, this was not a hard project. You only need a few simple tools, which will be all documented in the description for the video. And it just takes a little bit of time. The other thing that you can do with this is save a lot of money on installation. This is really honestly better than taking your car to the stereo shop, having who knows who work on your car. They're not going to care about it as much as you do. They're not going to take care of it like you do. So there's advantages to doing this yourself, beyond just saving the money. All right. Thank you to Bimmertech. What a fantastic partner. If you like what you've seen, please click subscribe below. It makes a huge difference for my channel. I answer any questions that I can, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video.